Our first day of the war was destined to make a very distinct impression on us. We were sitting in the schoolhouse where we were quartered, having breakfast. Suddenly there was a series of heavy explosions close by, and soldiers rushed from every house and crowded to the entrance of the village. We followed their example without knowing why. Again there was the peculiar whisper and fluster overhead that we had never before heard, drowned in a terrific crash. I was surprised to see the men round me crouching as if bent under terrific pressure. Immediately after, black groups appeared in the empty village street, bearing black bundles on stretchers or on joined hands. A feeling of unreality oppressed me as I stared at a figure streaming with blood, whose limbs hung loose, and who unceasingly gave a hoarse cry for help, as though death had him already by the throat. He was carried into a cottage with the Red Cross flag over the door. What was all this, then? The war had shown its claws and torn off its pleasant mask. It was so mysterious, so impersonal. One had scarcely given a thought to the enemy carrying on his secret and malignant existence somewhere behind. The impression of something arising entirely from beyond the pale of experience was so strange that it was difficult to see the connection of things. It was like a ghost at noon. A shell had hit the entrance of the chateau, and had struck a mass of stones and masonry into the doorway, just as the inmates, terrified by the previous shell burst, were flocking out. There were 13 casualties, among them the bandmaster, Gebhardt, whom I knew well by sight from the promenade concerts at Hanover. A horse standing tied up at the steps realized the danger before the human beings, and breaking loose galloped unhurt into the courtyard. I could tell from talking to my companions that this episode had somewhat dampened their martial ardour. It had affected me too. I seldom heard the rumble of a passing lorry without mistaking it for the sound of that deadly shell. In any case, however, it was our fate all through the war to start at any sudden and unexpected sound, whether a train clattered by, or a book fell on the floor, or a cry rang out at night. The heart always stood still for a moment in the belief that some great and unknown danger threatened. It was the sign of living 4 years under the shadow of death. The effect upon the dark regions that lie beneath the consciousness was so deep that at the least interruption of the usual course, death started up with a warning hand, or as he does in those clocks where he appears above the dial at every hour with sandglass and scythe.